Hello everyone, today we are going to do some sketch and for the preparation for our field trip at the beach. So today I am going to show you or share with you some of the way to watercolors the ocean, the palm tree, the grass and the sky. So for this one that we are not going to do a formal painting of the scenery. Here we are going to divide it to a few sessions, and each session is going to be a different subject like skies and oceans. So I am going to leave the long one for the tree. So I'm going to leave about right here. Maybe I need to be a little bit bigger. And then I can take this part out. And then this part here is going to be maybe the sky or the beach. And this one could be the grass. And then here could be the ocean. So I am just going to, or here maybe could be the leaf. You can separate them almost like the Mondrian, the style painting that he divided to the session. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is to start it with the ocean up here. Okay, take the ocean up here, and then when I'm waiting for this to dry, I will come in and work on the palm tree. Okay, let's see how this goes today. So for the brushes, I will need to have a large, medium size, and then the small size. Okay, so for the ocean that I'm using here, you can see there's darker, and then gets lighter here, and then gets a little bit lighter here. So what I'm going to do is to wet my brushes, and then also wet the watercolors because they are dry and it's hard to get the colors out. And there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can try to just wet the water or clean water. Okay. And the color that you're using, this is really bright. You see how bright this is? And you compare to the color is not that bright. So to dull these colors, you need to add a little bit orange because blue and orange, they are opposite colors. So now the color is duller, it's kind of going down a little bit. Or you can add a little bit of, let's see, this is the raw umber. Okay, so I'm going to start it with up here. Because the paper is wet, so it's kind of forming this sprays. Can do this part right here, and then also right here, and then this part. So this is just the first layer. You don't have to worry too much about the texture. This is also a good time to place colors, different colors to your ocean. Okay, you can kind of see that. I would say this is a fun stage, because you're watching how waters behave on the papers. Squint your eyes. I see this part is a little bit lighter, so I'm going to leave it like this for now. Okay, the other way to do the ocean, we're going to leave this to dry, and then we're going to go back in and do the second layer. But the other way to do it, you can also do a dry paper first. So first one we try with the wet paper, but the second one we're going to try with the dry paper. Same thing, I had to prepare my colors ready first. And you can start it from the top. And once that is finished, you can then put the clean water, like a little bit more, less watercolor, so add more water to it. And this time you're going to start it right here, but above a little bit, not right on the edge, just a little bit above. And the water will take down the blue that you first placed on. So you kind of drag it down. We call this a gradient wash, meaning it's from darker to lighter. So you can also work on this way, and then you can go back in. If you see the pigment is a little bit dark, like right here, you can also do this way too. So there is different way that you can achieve the wash. Okay, one is working with completely wet water, and then one is just the dry water. So I would like you to try a couple way and just experience, see which way that you like it better. Okay, and the next thing while we're waiting for this to dry, what we're going to do now is going to do the tree, the palm tree. So as you can see that this palm tree has a lot of leaf. So you're not going to go in and do every single leaf. Okay, so I'm going to use this one here just because it's give me a little bit wider space. So same thing, I'm going to do a envelope shape, or you can say a blocking. Okay, so I'll do it right here. So my blocking is from this to here. And then straight. And then go tip it here a little bit. And then this angle. Maybe I will study this chunk up here. Okay, so here is my leaf. And as you can see, you can start to take out that negative space. It'll kind of do the blocking. So envelope shape, and then the blocking, okay? You might feel like this doesn't look like a leaf at all, but it will happen. So the envelope shape is there to guide you the angle. So sometimes you might run off a little bit. Don't worry too much about that. The most important is that you see the big shape at first. Okay, now I'm going to do the inside. Do notice that I'm not making any contour line. I'm just kind of blocking in. Okay, here has a little bit more leaf. It's kind of going down this way. And I hope that you will use the blocking technique to draw instead of just jump right into the contour line. Okay, so here is my example of using the envelope shape first and then started to blocking the detail. The next thing I was started to doing is I'm going to make it closer so you can see it. You can see there is light and dark, right? A lighter leaf, palm leaf, and then this darker one. For the first layer, you don't need to worry about light and dark yet. You wanted to prepare the surface, which is like more green. So blue and yellow going to give you a very nice green. Again, this green is so bright. You can have it on some area, but it's a little bit too bright for the whole tree. So what I'm going to do is I have a bright green, but in the same time, I'm going to have a green that is a little bit duller. I'm going to add the sap green right here. Okay, I'm going to start it using this one here. Sap green. And then if it gets a little bit too bright, I can also add orange to it. Ooh. Yeah, let's try this one and we're gonna mix it. So same thing, I'm gonna start it with I'm not gonna start it with the all water this time because I need to have a better control with the colors. So instead of using the clear water to prepare the papers, I am using a dry paper, but on top, I'm started to give like the edge of the leaf. And the way to do this leaf is you want to pull it out fast. Okay, just pull it out fast. You can practice on the side, kind of fast like this. This meantime, I can add different green to it. Because my paper is wet now, so the color is kind of running to each other. The colors is kind of running to each other. So this is a good time for you to mix different color to it. You can have some, if it's darker here, you can just kind of make it a little bit darker here. So generally, you don't have to separate light and dark at this point. You want to give your palm tree a different variety of colors. So I'm going to add a little bit right here. And when to separate light and dark is, we're going to do that on the second layer. Okay, I'm going to pull this down a little bit so I can have better look. The trunk here is going to be just going to use brown right here for now. Right here. So that is my palm tree leaf right here. Okay, for the couple thing here I wanted to mention is you can also lifting the colors. Okay, with watercolor, a lot of people feel like they cannot erase it, but when the paper is still dry, you can definitely use the brushes that is thirsty, meaning it's clean and it's thirsty right here. You dry your brushes on the towel and you can lift. You can start lifting those light color right here, a little bit lighter here. So this is my first layer. And I'm going to leave it alone for now and then come back to work on my two-value statement. So the first layer that I did, I mixed the color, but I also kind of not guessing, but kind of give a very general idea where the light and dark is. For the second layer, I will do a little bit more obvious that you can see what is light and dark. Okay, So the next thing I wanted to do is the cloud, or like the sky. Let me see this right here. And I'm going to use this one here. So you can see this is darker to lighter because the sky further away appeared to light and duller. The blue is kind of like greenish blue, and then here is more of cobalt or Solarian blue here. So that's what we're going to do, a gradient wash. Okay, something we got to prepare the pigment, or like prepare the watercolors. I am going to, yeah, I really don't like to wash my watercolors because I feel like I can use it instead of just rinse it out. Here I'm preparing the blue for the top. So watercolor, we don't use white, the water is your white. So if I want it to be lighter blue, I can add more water to it. Okay, same thing. I'm going to split those two different ways so you can kind of see two different ways that you can work on it. Split this part right here. Okay, so the first way is wet your paper first. Okay, that's just wet the paper all the way. I'm going to go in. Well, that is a very little bit darker blue here. I'm gonna have it kind of go down a little bit more. And then on the bottom part right here, the bottom part, I'm going to add a little bit green to it just because it has a little bit more green here. Okay, so here's the sky. I'm going to lift the cloud. So lifting the cloud, you can wet your paper towel a little bit. You don't want to be all wet, kind of like halfway dry. Squeeze it a little bit and you're going to start lifting. Lifting the cloud. And same thing, you need to wait until you dry a little bit more so you can. So here's my cloud at first. Okay. Now I'm going to work on this part here. This is going to be a dry. See how this extra water here? You also need to dry them out. It's better you use the brushes to dry it. Dry like this. If you don't do that, what happens is once the paper dry, this extra water on the tape or on the bottom gonna start pushing it back, and then you're gonna start getting the watermark, or you can, it's like cauliflower kind of watermark shape. Sometimes I use it, but a lot of time people doesn't like that watermark. So you need to make sure dry it so the extra water doesn't push that back. The second one I'm going to do now is going to be a dry paper. And then make sure your brushes has a good amount of water. So, and then after that, I'm using a little bit more watery. You can use a clean water or light blue and just kind of very touch it, inviting the water on the top coming down here. You can kind of see very nicely gradient wash too. Same thing, I'm gonna add a little bit of blue right there. You decide which way you like it better. Somehow I feel the first one might be a little bit easier because it kind of come down a little bit more even. But okay. And doing the same thing, you lift your paper towel. If you use a dry paper towel, you might take out too much. So I use kind of halfway dry, and we're going to just lift the cloud. That's okay. I'm gonna check on my first one here. The first one, you can see that the paper is not shiny anymore. And that's one way you can check if your paper is dry or not, is checking the surface of the paper, that shininess. So this is very wet here, so it's much shinier. And here it's kind of dry now. So I'm gonna go in and start my second layer for the ocean. Okay, this is a time I am separating dark and light. And for some reason, the ocean here that is closer to us, it seems a little bit lighter than the one in the back. Usually it's other way, but I'm just going to work with what the photo tell me at this time, and then I can change it later if I needed to. Okay, so squint your eyes, most darker part is right here, and then you have a lighter here. Also looking at the wave is much thicker wave, and they are apart from each other. The distance between the next wave is a little bit more further apart, versus if you look at further away, especially here, they are very close to each other. Okay, so those are a couple things I want you to notice that as well. Okay, I'm gonna start it with my light and dark. Two value statement. Okay. I think at this point I can also separate the ocean and the sky too. I'm going to add a little bit more raw umber, just because the raw umber can dull down the blue, because if it's on the distance, the blue shouldn't be that bright. Okay, here is my blue right here. I'm going to draw this line first. From here to here. So here's the dark. Squint your eyes a little bit, and then it's like right here. And then it gets light again. So you can kind of see here's the hard edges. To get rid of that hard edges is you dry the brushes, and then you just barely touch it right here. So you can dry, you can kind of blend in by using a thirsty brushes and then try that on your own. Each one's paper is a little bit different and temperature is a little bit different. So yours might not turn out exactly like mine, but just keep practicing it. Okay. So here's the soft edges. And then the light, so it's darker here and then it's lighter here. I am gonna go in and just kind of give a little bit darker right here too. You can see a little bit darker right here as well. But do notice that the blue is a little bit different. Same thing, dry your brushes and just kind of barely touch the edges here. So you kind of form into a better edges. Instead of hard edges, it's going to be a soft edges. Dry your brushes, just kind of again, I'm going to let it dry. And then on here, I'll do the same thing. The upper is a little bit duller. This one, I'm not going to separate the sky. I'm just going to do the whole thing as the ocean. So it's duller blue on the top. And then the lights on the bottom. Leaving this alone. And I am going to start it with the second layer of my palm tree. And then same thing, I'm going to separate light and dark. Here appear everything is all dark, but I need to make that decision that the one that closer to me, like this bushes here, is going to be darker than the one on the back. I'm going to add a little bit orange here as well, so it's not so bright. So on this one here, you can also working on some of the detail. I use the skinnier brushes. something you can lift. So that is a light and dark. Okay, for the cloud, what we're going to do is to make the shadow on the bottom. You can kind of see how this part right here that is darker than the one on the top. So what you wanted to do is you need to use the clear water. This is a little bit too warm. Let me see. Use the clear water, and you want to kind of go back in and wet this cloud a little bit. And the reason for that is because you want to have a soft edges. And I'll come back here and I'll just kind of very touch the bottom part of the cloud. You can also use like more raw umber right there, so it look more brownish here. And then same thing on this part right here. You want to kind of wet the cloud at first. And then the part that is darker, you can go back in. You can dab in it too, so it's not a this right here. If the cloud that you want it to be light, you can go back in and use the thirsty brushes. Kind of pick it up as well. Dry your brushes, and then so on. Okay, and you can do the same thing on the cloud right there. I'm showing you the basic way to do it, and I do it very quick, but you can spend a little bit longer time here. Now we're going to start doing the detail. As you can see here, this wave here, I don't want you to do it so dark at first because it does take layer to create that kind of texture. So you're going to start it to squint your eyes again, and this time you're going to have the wave, just like a pattern of the wave. So what you're painting is not the darkest area, but it's this whole shape right there, okay? So it's easier if you squint your eyes because you can see it blurry and you can see the general shape of a wave rather than the detail. And remember that when the wave gets to on the top, it gets skinnier, and the distance is also becomes closer. Again, don't forget using the lifting technique as well. Like if you feel like some part need to be lighter, you can use the brushes, thirsty brushes, to lift it up a little bit. If it's too dry, you might not be able to lift it that much. Okay, this give me a cauliflower here. You guys can see that, and that is because that I didn't wait until the bottom layer completely dry. But I like watercolors marked, and it doesn't bother me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'll come back in here to work on my other layers. This part right here, you can have some is a little bit darker while it's still wet. But if you don't like this watercolor mark, and one way you can get rid of it is to, again, dry your thirsty brushes and just kind of lift it up if you don't like it. Okay, so the tip of it seems like a little bit darker here, so I kind of just add a little bit of the paint to it to kind of create different volume of blue instead of just all the same. Okay, and then on the top here, is much more blurry, so this is a two hard edges, so I need to come back and soften those edges as well. And how I soften it is I use the brushes, cleanse it, dry it, and then just kind of very dab it a little bit. So it shows some hard line, but not as much as the one in the front. So you can try that. And do the same thing right here too, okay? I hope this helped, and work on a little bit more on your own. The most important is that you need to familiar with how the watercolor behave on the different papers, and the timing. The timing is very important as well. Like, when do I put the second layer? How much do I need to wait until it dry? How long do I need to wait until it dry? Okay, and if you have a question, you can ask Miss Sarah as well. Thank you.